locker room for part 2 of the Penn State scandal. That's Penn State's fight song right there, and I'm one of your 4 hosts, Kyle Anderson.
It's Brandon Jones in the locker room.
Matt Hirsch right here in the locker room.
And Reggie Huffman.
It's Brandon Hoke's son.
Hey, Reggie?
Now, what we're talking about tonight is we've covered in part 1 the whole scandal involving Penn State, and we talked about the NCAA and should they have levied the sanctions. Now, in part 2, we're going to kind of continue that, but we're also going to talk about Joe Paterno, his family. Do they have a right to a defamation lawsuit? But the big thing, and Matt and Reggie and Brandon brought this up while we were off air, great discussion. How does this change the landscape of college football with a lot of the players leaving to go to other universities? We'll go ahead and start right off the bat with that one, guys. How has this changed any of the college football season coming up with some of these players leaving to go to other schools? Brandon?
USC gets that running back that they were looking for. They already had a back in place, but now you got 2 of them. That makes that national championship contender look a little bit better. So if we just talk about one player, Silas Red, I think he's a junior. So he might be back next year.
LSU has depth at quarterback.
And this is the thing about LSU fans. LSU fans are going, damn, I thought Jordan Jefferson only had 4 years of eligibility.
Well, my whole thing about it is you almost want to say to Bolton, getting your ass kicked twice by Alabama wasn't enough. You want to go for 3?
Yeah.
So I guess.
He won't even see the playing field. It'll be Zach Mettenberger.
Yeah. Exactly. Reggie, what do you think?
I mean, I think that the players having this option is, first of all, it's great, especially. But I do feel for the singers. I mean, this is something that they've worked their entire college football. Brandon played football, so I know he definitely can attest to how it feels to have to think about another school that you put your blood, sweat, and tears in for 4 years, and now you have to up and relocate. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Look, I'm not silly enough to not realize that playing intercollegiate athletics looks great on a resume. Mm-hmm. I think guys, y'all could probably agree with that because y'all played intercollegiate athletics. But what says more, a player that goes to get playing time, or a player that says I'm going to be loyal and stay with Penn State, or just playing at Penn State, does that hurt him? Like, oh well, you're part of that Penn State crowd.
That's actually a good question.
Well, let's look at it life after football because, Kyle, you said off air, what about these seniors? Where are they going to realistically go? Well, let's look at these guys that, what about their careers? Not necessarily in the NFL, but what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
You got to think one of those senior receivers is at Oklahoma now and is lighting it up. Bob Stoops can't stop talking about him. He's going to play receiver. He's going to return kicks. The thing about it is, loyalty. People will talk about loyalty. And Reggie, you know this. You get 4 years to do this for the rest of your life. So you got to make the best decision there is for you. I understand fans will want to talk about loyalty and this, that, and other. But you're going to be a fan forever. But you get 4 years for the rest of your life to do this. You got to put yourself in the best situation. And if Penn State ain't the right situation for you, you got to go somewhere and make it the best situation that you can make it out of.
And Reggie, I know that you probably got some thoughts on this, and we'll give you a chance to talk in a second. But my big question is not necessarily these guys getting a chance to play, but what about these guys that they know they're not going to play in the NFL, that they're going to be, accountants or, radio broadcasters or whatever. What looks better on a resume to prospective employers? Because they're in college to get a college education. Mm-hmm. The fact that they transferred from Penn State or that they were loyal enough to stick it out.
I mean, that's a good point. I think that is there something to be said about someone who decides to stay in that situation. I try to put myself in the mindset of a senior who would decide to stay. I'll be honest with you guys. That's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. I'm sorry because like Brandon said, at the end of the day, you have to think about life. I mean, you made a good point thinking about life after football, but while you're in football, you're going to go all out. It doesn't matter football or basketball, baseball. You want the best opportunity possible for your future to see what you can make out of it.
And the reason I asked, there was a group of Penn State players that came out led by I don't want to say the funniest name in college football, but a little part of me giggles inside every time I hear it, Matt McGloin, and a group of players came out and said, hey, we're sticking with Penn State. we're Penn State through and through. And yeah, it's going to be tough times, but we're here. We bleed blue.
And it's not a knock at any of those guys, Matt McGloin. But honestly, where can those guys go? Matt McGloin was a walk-on at Penn State.
That's right.
He didn't have a lot of opportunities.
He didn't play much when Rob Bolden was there. That's
right.
For sure.
A lot of those guys didn't have a lot of opportunities, so they see themselves as being loyal to the place that gave them that opportunity. But when you talk about the Silas Reds, the kids that have transferred out, the kid that went to Florida State, but they had options.
But they can play professional football, though.
But when you come out in athletics, when you work out in January, you're working out because our goal is to win the conference, is to do this and do this. That's what motivated me to get up out of the bed at 4 o'clock in the morning to do my out-of-season workouts. That's what made me stay in Baton Rouge, Louisiana during the summer and run while everybody else was at the club and having fun. That's what does that for you. When you take that away, and that's the reason you step out on the field, is to win them pretty rings, to win championships. When you take that away...
So getting on TV, beating Ohio State, none of that matters as much as winning a championship.
It's about those championships, man. It's about the championship.
Fair enough.
Well, the thing that comes to my mind is, and I get what you're saying, Matt, is, yeah, there are people that want to win championships, and that's right. But what about those guys that are second, third, fourth stringers that they know darn good well they ain't never going to go to the NFL? They can't leave. And now you just made their life a little harder because you want to punish the university that gave them the uniforms that they play with. Now all of a sudden it's, well, I got to stay here because if I do transfer, I may not get an offer from someone else. I may have to pay my own way. I may not be able to major. I may have to go another 3 years because I have to start all over with my credits and everything else. I mean, I get what everybody's saying, but the thing that I think a lot of people are really missing about all of this is we make ourselves feel better by going, well, it's okay, they can transfer out. Somebody has to want you first. Yeah. I mean, people can say, well, they can go to Illinois. Well, shit, they don't want to get punished. I mean, they're already getting punished now. You don't go to a program that sucks. If you're going to do that, stay where you're at and just finish one more year and get out of there.
A lot of those kids are going to stay because a lot of those starters are going to transfer out. So you might have been that second or third team guy. Now you're a second team guy, or maybe even starter. Now you're in that rotation, so it gives you an opportunity to get on the field. So a lot of those guys are going to stay for that reason.
What? Go ahead.
And I'll be honest with you from this standpoint. You know, the pro scouts, they're not stupid. Okay, like they know that if you're a good prospect, a good player, they're going to give you a look. You know, for the guys that decide to stay at Penn State and actually have a really good season, you know, that's working and really have a shot at the NFL. You have guys who, like Brandon said, you knew you weren't going to get in playing time, but because of the experience, because of playing time, you actually developed into a real prospect.
But what about the HR guys, the accounting firms and the banks and the PR firms, and where these guys that aren't going to play professional football, where they're going to go? What looks better to them? I guess that's my question. I don't know how.
I'm a kid that transferred. It doesn't bother me.
Well, but you also didn't. But you have to remember, you didn't transfer from a university where you were under scandal, and because let's be honest, everybody said from day one they deserve everything they got, and we forget that a lot of those kids are 18, 19, 20, 21, had a damn thing to do with any of this, but because we saw Penn State and people are like, for instance, were saying you hit them where it hurts, you hit them hard, and that's really where it's not. And people go, life's not fair. And I had somebody bring this up. It said, well, look at Enron. They lost all these people's investments. We're not talking about a damn company where you decided to invest your money and you lost it. We're talking about a group of kids who had no idea what the hell was going on, and now you want to ruin their world because, hey, we got to make a stand on this and put a good face on this on what we did.
Well, and we're talking about the character of these kids, and I really do applaud the kids that are deciding to stay.
Yeah.
The thing is that with character, you know, they didn't know about it. I think another big question is who really did know about it, because we were talking about Joe Paterno earlier. I think there's still some questions how much he really knew. How much did Joe Paterno really know?
We may never know the answer to that question.
With the free report and things that came out, we were talking about this earlier. Yeah, there was an email saying, oh, well, I talked to Joe about this. The athletic director was saying, oh, well, I handled it, and Joe went, okay, well, it's been handled.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And if he even knew that much, I still can't allow you to come on my campus to use my football program to bring kids around. I can't do it. As a head coach, it's like if me and Reggie were in the locker room.
Well, you
Reggie,
are.
it's alleged that Reggie might be sleeping with one of the teachers. For some reason, the only people that really know it, yeah, let's say for argument's sake, she's pretty hot.
Okay. Good job, Reggie.
Thank you.
All right.
See, you got giving Reggie.
No, I'm kidding.
But for some reason, Reggie, you know, and Kyle, you know this from being in the locker room. It's stuff that you know in the locker room that the outside world don't know, and the head coach is on top of it. So he knew something. Now, Joe being an older guy, I know how they used to handle it. I'm gonna let this handle it. You know, this is the way we work out, and there wasn't nothing wrong with that back then. But you accountable.
I have to agree with Brandon on this, just from being on, coming up playing sports. There's very little, and I do mean very little, that gets by head coaches. They pretty much know a lot about their players, about their coaches, you'd be surprised. The coaches will know about relationships you have going on hundreds of miles away from campus. So
fight out apart.
Well, a lot of people think that Joe Paterno, and I wasn't there, so I can't speculate, think that he was just a figurehead like the last 10 years or so. Yeah. Because if you look at some of the things that happened probably 10 years before they fired him and he passed away, Sandusky retires. They have a couple of losing seasons, and then miraculously they turn it back around and start winning again. What happened? Did Joe have a Bear Bryant moment and change philosophies and start winning again, or was it?
I think a lot of people will agree with you that he was a figurehead. Now, I will say this much. If you're the head coach, you're going to take all the credit for the wins, and you're going to take the blame for the losses, then you got to take credit for being a head coach. Now, I will say this. Matt, you brought this up. Reggie, you've mentioned it numerous times. Brandon, we've talked about it ad nauseum. We'll never know really what happened. However, I understand if Penn State wanted to take his statue down. That's understandable because people will say, it was just a hard point. However, can somebody please explain to me why in the hell they took the other statues and accomplishments of those players down and basically just took everything? It's almost like Penn State was just saying, we're taking it all down. We're going to try to get rid of everything. We don't want anybody making fun of us or commenting or anything else. I have a question. Why did you do that? And does Joe Paterno's family have a right to sue for defamation of character?
The reason why I did everything else was salt in the wound, which I think.
But those players had nothing to do with this.
Not a damn thing. But it's salt, pouring salt in the wound. They overdid it. They were trying to. The media and everybody wanted action, and they tried to give them as much action as they possibly could.
I see why they did it, because it was a reminder, which salt in the wound, like you said. But I wonder how premature it was. I wonder if later on, if something comes out where they find out that Joe didn't really know much about it, if they're going to regret it later. Does the family have a right to sue for defamation of character? Yeah. Why? Because there wasn't really much investigation to what Joe Paterno knew or didn't know. Yeah. He was implicated in that report and by the NCAA.
I agree with you, Matt. His family definitely has a right to sue. There's a lot of information that we still don't know, but from what we do know, from as much information as we can get our hands on, they definitely have a right to sue for defamation of character. This guy, he's not even among us anymore, and his statues are being taken down, as if he was Sandusky himself.
Right.
So, they definitely have a right to go forward with, defamation of character suit.
Now, the thing that gets me, and guys, tell me if we're wrong on this, I understand what Sandusky did was horrible, and Brandon made a great point in the last segment where there was a culture of cover-up. Now, a lot of people have said that Penn State was doing this because, we have to give the right image because we do things the right way. So they broke the rules to do what they thought was right, even though we all know it was wrong. I'll put this question to you guys. Is the NCAA not kind of guilty of the same thing? You bypassed your own rules for whatever reason, you did the same thing. Now, you didn't molest kids and cover it up, but you basically broke your own rules and you punished a whole bunch of people that had nothing to do with this because you wanted to make it look like you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think the NCAA looked at it as if, you know what, Penn State, you haven't been playing fair. You know, you knew that this was going on. We have reports that this has definitely been brought to your attention. You overlooked it. You turned and looked the other way. So now we're not going to play fair. We're basically going to play by our own rules, and we don't care. I mean, the NCAA, they just, you know, they would say, hey, we're going to do it our way, and that's just the end of it. We don't care if you think it's too harsh. Just be grateful, once again, that we didn't give you the death penalty. But they definitely picked up the joint stick, and they made up their own game on this.
I think because the allegations in this particular case were so heinous and so different than anything that we had ever seen,
Right.
it was unprecedented. NCAA stepped in, and they made an unprecedented move.
And the question I have is, how scared would you be if you're Miami?
You better be scared.
And here's the thing. But here's the thing, though. They're taking what Yahoo Sports reported. There has been no investigation yet, or if it has, they haven't said anything. So that's the question that you ask. Are you just going to take any Tom, Dick, and Harry that walks in and says, hey, this is what I reported. Oh, okay, well, I'm going to give you 4 years probation, $60 million fine, and all these other things. But I agree with you guys. I think it's a great subject, and we could talk about it all night, but it's just going to be, it's just one of those things. But now we're going to dive into my 2 cents. We're going to go ahead and start it off with Brandon.
Oh, I got to start off.
Why are you? Well, because you're the number one guy. That's why.
I'm a little batting lead up. All right, man. We're going to start off my 2 cents. We had the UAB show. We're going to talk about Legion Field. People say whatever they want to say about Legion Field, but guess what? It's all we have right now. And before you can step in and say, I want something different, you got to take care of, you got to support what you have right now. UAB fans say, hey, Legion Field is a dangerous area. But Alabama played in that dangerous area for years, and people showed up. Magic City Classic, you name the event, people show up in this quote-unquote dangerous area. Like I said, quick, when was the last time you had a major incident at Legion Field? Right. Shut up, show up, support your team, and in due time, you'll get what you deserve.
Well spoken.
For my 2 cents, normally I do props and drops. I think it's just going to be drops and drops. For me this time, a few episodes ago, gave a prop for a former baseball player that started a video game company, Kurt Schilling. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And talked about how fantastic it was and the reason he did it. Because he said it saved his marriage, so he's very passionate about that. Since read some disappointing information about that, so I guess first drop is on me because probably shouldn't have given him the prop. But he's lost $4 million or something ridiculous like that with this video game company. They haven't really developed the game, and he's basically gone bankrupt. So he didn't really put his all into it, as passionate as he was. So if you say you're passionate about something, stand up for it.
Well, my 2 cents would be, what were you thinking? And I'm going to go back to the Los Angeles Lakers. Kobe Bryant. Apparently, during the Olympics, Kobe had an incident where he was at a party after a game one night, and some photographs were taken of Kobe, and he apparently had his shirt off. And not only did he have his shirt off, but he had a nice young lady on one side and a nice young lady on the other side. Now, the story behind this was that Kobe said, hey, I spilled a drink on my shirt, and I called someone, and they were bringing me another shirt. Well, it just doesn't look good, Kobe. I mean, here you are, a guy, as Matt said, Kurt Schilling, this guy trying to save your marriage. It's just not a favorable move. What were you thinking? Hey, let me tell you something. If I'm Kobe Bryant and I have drink on my shirt and it spills, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That shirt ain't coming off. I mean, let's just be honest here. That shirt is going to stay on. I don't care if I got a stain from here to Vermont on there. It ain't coming out of there. So, Kobe Bryant, next time you spill something in your shirt, let's keep it on and let's just wait for the other shirt to arrive first.
Yeah, especially with the news about the Olympic Village, they need 100,000 condoms because 70,000 weren't enough. Yeah, but keep that damn shirt on.
Apparently they're giving medals in the wrong events. So that's all I can say. But for my reality check, one of the things we're going to end on tonight is we've talked about a lot of serious subjects. We've talked about Penn State. We've talked about UAB. We've talked about a lot of things. A lot of people have asked us, and I've had people ask me, off air, How do you guys choose your topics? How do you decide? What do y'all bring up? Honestly, the reality check is we look at what's going on and what we think people want to hear, but also we take a lot of our cues from you, our listeners, and we appreciate you. I know I've said it before, and I can never say it enough. On behalf of all of us, we really do appreciate everything you put into the locker room. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate anything. And we don't look at anything as a bad comment or a good comment. We look at them as comments. Everybody's entitled to their different opinions. We want you to come in. We want you to say if you disagree with us or you agree with us. So on behalf of all of us, thank you. Please keep up what you're doing. And please don't ever stop giving your opinion. Last time I checked, quote Reggie, this is America. So you're allowed to speak your mind. America. You may get made fun of, but that's okay.
It's America. America.
America. Guys, as always, a great show. I mean, we're living the dream. We're basically doing it. The BS stops and the analysis starts. So I guess they're playing our song, and it's time for us to go out.
It's been fun.
I know. Guys, take us out.
Locker room, man. We out of here.